The year is 1846, and the air inside the Vienna General Hospital does not smell like healing, it smells of rotting flesh. It is a thick copper scent that clings to the coats of the doctors and settles into the pores of the medical students. Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis stands in the corridor of the first obstetrical clinic, his hand resting against the cold plaster wall, listening. He isn't listening to a heartbeat or a lecture. He is listening to the weeping. It is a specific kind of sound, low, terrified, and utterly hopeless. Outside the gates, pregnant women are on their knees in the mud, clutching the hems of passers-by, begging, actually begging to be allowed to give birth in the street rather than be brought inside this building. They know what the doctors inside refuse to admit. They know that entering the first clinic is a death sentence. Semmelweis wipes sweat from his forehead. He is 28 years old and he is already carrying the weight of 1,000 ghosts. The statistics are a screaming nightmare in his notebook. In the second clinic, run by midwives, the mothers live. In his clinic, the first clinic, run by the learned doctors and their students, the mothers die. They die of puerperal fever, childbed fever. They burn up from the inside, their abdomens swelling, their delirium echoing through the wards until the silence finally takes them. 1 in 6 women who enter these doors never leaves, and no one knows why. The medical establishment blames miasma, bad air. They blame the weather. They blame the alignment of the stars. They blame the modesty of the women. Semmelweis knows this is a lie, but he cannot find the truth. He spends his days in the morgue. It is his only sanctuary and his only classroom. Every morning, he and his students stand over the bodies of the women who died the night before. They wield scalpels with bare hands, dissecting the tragedy, searching for a cause in the inflamed organs and blackened tissues. They finish their grim work, wipe their bloody hands on their aprons, which are stiff with the gore of 100 autopsies, and walk directly upstairs to the maternity ward to examine the living. This is the routine. This is science. Then, the universe delivers a cruel, precise clue. It is not a woman who dies this time, but a man. Jakub Kolechka, Semmelweis's close friend and mentor, is pricked by a student's scalpel during an autopsy. It is a minor wound, a mere scratch, but within days, Jakub is writhing in agony. Semmelweis sits by his bedside, watching in paralyzed horror as his friend displays the exact same symptoms as the mother's, the swelling, the fever, the agony. The autopsy of his friend reveals the same ravaged organs. The realization hits Semmelweis like a physical blow to the chest. The room spins. It isn't the air, it isn't the stars, it is them, the doctors. They are the carriers. They are walking straight from the bodies of the dead, their hands covered in invisible cadaverous particles, and thrusting those particles into the bodies of healthy women during examinations. The very hands meant to deliver life are delivering death. The killer is not a ghost. The killer is the doctor. Semmelweis stands before the basin. It is May 1847. He has made a decision that will either save thousands or destroy his life. He pours a solution of chlorinated lime into the water. The smell is pungent, biting, chemical. It cuts through the stench of the morgue like a knife. He dips his hands in. It burns. He scrubs until his skin is raw, until every trace of the death particles is gone. Then he issues an order that sends a shockwave through the hospital hierarchy. Wash your hands. No student, no doctor, no professor is to touch a patient without first scrubbing in the chlorine solution. The reaction is immediate and visceral. The students grumble. The older doctors roll their eyes. They are men of science, gentlemen of status. To suggest they are unclean is an insult to their dignity. Their hands are the hands of healers. How could they possibly be the hands of murderers? But Semmelweis stands guard like a Cerberus. He watches them. He forces them. He becomes the most hated man in the ward. And then the dying stops. It happens so fast it feels like magic. In April, the mortality rate was over 18%. By July, it plummets to 1%. The wards once filled with the moans of the dying fall silent, a peaceful, living silence. Women are going home with their babies. The terror at the gates evaporates. The data is undeniable. The graph on Semmelweis's wall is a sheer cliff drop, a testament to a simple truth. Soap and water save lives. He has solved the mystery. He has saved the mothers. He expects the medical community to rejoice. He expects them to adopt this miracle instantly. He is wrong. He has underestimated the most dangerous disease of all, human ego. Professor Klein, his superior, is apoplectic. To accept Semmelweis's theory is to admit that he, the great Professor Klein, has been killing women for decades. It is an admission of manslaughter on an industrial scale. The establishment strikes back with vicious force. They don't attack his data, they attack his character. They call his theory speculative trash. They mock his accent. They ridicule his peasant superstition about washing. Famous physicians write essays arguing that a gentleman's hands are socially clean, and therefore physically clean. The facts do not matter because the facts hurt their pride. Semmelweis fights back. He shouts in meetings. He writes furious letters calling his detractors murderers. He becomes erratic, consumed by the injustice of it all. He sees the women dying in other hospitals, hospitals that refuse to wash, and he feels their blood on his conscience. He is not just fighting for a protocol anymore. He is fighting for his sanity. But the wall of ego is too high, too thick. In 1849, his contract is not renewed. He is fired. The chlorine basins are thrown out. The doctors stop washing. And within weeks, the death rate in the Vienna General Hospital begins to climb once again. Semmelweis is exiled, forced to leave Vienna, a prophet screaming into the wind while the dying begins anew. Years pass. The fire in Semmelweis has not burned out. It has consumed him. He is in Budapest now, older, grayer, his eyes wide and frantic. He stops couples on the street, grabbing the husbands by the coat, shouting at them to make sure their doctors wash their hands. He writes open letters to the world's leading obstetricians, accusing them of massacre. I have heard the call of the murdered women, he writes, his pen tearing through the paper. To the world, he looks like a madman. To history, he is the only sane person in the room. But the world only sees the madness. His behavior becomes more erratic. He drinks, he wanders, he forgets to eat. His wife, terrified and exhausted, turns to his colleagues for help. They promise a cure. They promise rest. It is July 1865. A colleague, a man Semmelweis trusts, invites him to visit a new medical institute in Vienna. It will be good for you, he says, a place to rest your mind. Semmelweis agrees. He wants to go back to Vienna. He wants to be heard. The carriage ride is long. When they arrive, the building is imposing, cold, familiar. But it is not a spa. It is not a clinic. As they step inside, the door slams shut behind him with a heavy final thud. Semmelweis turns. The guards are there. The realization is a jagged knife in his gut. It is a trap. He has been lured to the Lower Austrian lunatic asylum. He panics. He screams that he is a doctor, that he is Ignaz Semmelweis, the savior of mothers. He tries to leave. The guards descend on him. This is not a gentle restraint. It is a brutal beating. They strike him with clubs, kicking him as he falls to the stone floor. The man who dedicated his life to preventing pain is now writhing in it. He is dragged into a dark cell, bleeding and broken. The irony is the cruelest joke history has ever told. During the struggle, the guard's blows cause a wound on his right hand, the same hand that once held the chlorine solution. The wound becomes infected. Gangrene sets in. Sepsis. The very same blood poisoning that killed the thousands of women he tried to save, the same poison that killed his friend Jakob, now courses through his own veins. Ignaz Semmelweis dies 2 weeks later, alone, in the dark, delirious with fever. He is 47 years old. There is no state funeral. No monuments are raised. The medical journals barely mention his passing. The doctors go on not washing their hands, and the mothers go on dying for another 20 years until Louis Pasteur and Joseph Lister finally prove the existence of germs. Today, we scrub our hands without thinking. Every surgeon, every nurse, every child in a school bathroom is performing the ritual Semmelweis died for. He was the savior who was beaten to death for the crime of being right too soon.